Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Cross, and this is my presentation on the case study in Chapter 10, The Transferred Employee. In this slide, I'm going to cover what would I do in this situation. So after reading the case study, I was pretty conflicted on what I would do in this situation. It seems like the employee in the case study is making the right decision because of so many factors going against the employee, but on the other hand, employees should never be asked to do something that go against their moral values. And because of the employee's attitude and uneasiness throughout reading the case study, I felt that this probably went against that employee's moral values. Although, for me, in this case study, I would go ahead and change the date and complete the annual review. And you may be wondering why. I felt like, as a new manager, the employee in the case study did as much as they could in the given situation. They were listening to their employee about not having their annual performance review done, and also they were taking matters into their own hands to help the employee and to make sure that they got their performance review done. They did everything they could by contacting their supervisor and also seeking legal counsel and seeking advice from someone more knowledgeable in the organization about the matter. I'm going to go over the pros and the cons of going against the supervisor in the case study, and this also helped me make my decision. So I feel the cons outweigh the pros if the manager goes against their supervisor. The cons. It was clearly stated in the case study that the supervisor is known to not enjoy repeating himself. Also, delaying the annual review for the employee who is not in the wrong. By this I mean in the case it's the employee of you as the supervisor. It's not their fault that the old supervisor did not do their work and complete their annual performance review. And also, it may be morally wrong for the employee in the case study, but it's not legally wrong. And the pros. It will not go against the employee's morals in the case study, and I feel like the old supervisor would have to be held accountable for not doing the review. In this slide, I'm going to go over the question about would I confront my supervisor. In this situation, I would not go back and confront the supervisor. And you may be wondering why. Again, it is known the supervisor does not like to repeat himself. So he may feel like, why did you even ask for his advice and seek the legal counsel if you're going to not do what he gave you the advice for? Also, the proper action has been taken by seeking the legal counsel. Again, it may be morally wrong for the employee in the case study, but according to the legal counsel, it's not legally wrong. Also, as the employee's supervisor who is waiting on the performance review, it really is necessary to get it done ASAP. And I would take note of the action, and when I moved up in the company, I would try to change it if I could. And on this side, I'm going to go over why I made my choice. I made my choice because I felt like if I were the supervisor in the case study, it is really out of my power to do anything more about it. I may not morally agree with the destroying of documents, but I feel like in the end, there might be some sort of retaliation against me as a supervisor, maybe by my supervisor or even supervisors above me if I did not just go along with it. And also, as a new supervisor, the employees under me are now my responsibility. And I would want to complete the review as soon as I could so the employee who did nothing but question why their performance review was not done could benefit from it. And in the situation of me, and not in the case study, it does not go against my morals. The main issue I have with it is the actions of the former supervisor. I feel like the former supervisor was just making excuses and probably did not manage his employees very well if he did not even complete their regular performance reviews. And I would strive to be a better example for my new employees. And if I was in the situation and my employees came to me asking for advice, I would offer them different advice than what my supervisor offered me. And now I'm going to go over why I didn't choose the other alternatives. I didn't choose the other alternatives because I felt like agreeing with my supervisor and taking his advice is in my best interest and the best interest of the employees I'm now managing. I also have to take into consideration how the action would not only affect me, but the employees I am now supervising as well. And also, I feel like in the end, the action is not really entirely my fault. I'm just trying to clean up the mess of the former supervisor who was not completing their duties correctly by completing the employee's annual performance review. And also, outside advice was already sought. I asked my supervisor for advice. He said to do it, and I sought legal counsel, and they said it was okay. And everyone agrees in the organization that for that particular situation, it's okay, and other people have already done it. And now I'm going to go over what my next course of action would be. And my next course of action would be to proceed with my supervisor's advice. I would get rid of the document and change the date. And I would also try to contribute as much input as I could based on the fact that I had only been the employee supervisor for 60 days. And if I stayed within the organization and moved up the ranks, I would try to change the way future incidents of this nature were handled. And these are some other factors to consider that I felt like were pretty important to bring up. So, my biggest concern is that these aren't the only documents that are being changed because, as it states, and this is taken directly from the case study, the supervisor above the supervisor in the case study says it happens all the time and it is easily corrected by creating a new set of documents. Now, this really leads me to believe that he obviously has experience doing this. And, of course, it's not too big of a deal to do something that's just really going to benefit an employee, like making sure they get their annual performance review, but there also could be tamperment with other documents. And it also really made me think, where did my supervisor get the okay on this? So, because I am a supervisor and he is even higher than me, he has to be pretty high up in the organization. So, he's obviously not going to say that's okay unless someone higher up told him it was okay. So, regarding this particular case study, again, I feel like the issue is not too severe because it's just a performance review. Although it does raise the question of, are there other documents being changed? Are performance review documents the only things that are being tampered with? Or are there other documents? And could any of the other documents that were changed may not be done legally? And now I'm going to go over what other actions would I take. At the moment, I do not believe that there are any other actions to take because, again, I went with the route of taking the supervisor's advice and going ahead and changing the document so the employee could get their annual performance review done. But I would definitely try to keep track of what my supervisor said, also what the legal counsel said, and make sure that I kept track of the date that I did this, just in case anything were to happen, I would have that as backup. But if I did decide to stay with the organization, as if I moved up in the organization, I could raise the moral question of the actions taken and maybe try to change it. And also, as a supervisor, I could direct my employees to take a different action to stop the chain. And what I mean by stop the chain is I learned this from my supervisor, and as a new supervisor, I could teach them differently so it would not continue on in the organization. And finally, I'm going to cover what ethical framework I feel applies to this situation. And I went ahead and went with utilitarianism. And what this is it aims to keep as many people as happy as possible. It kind of goes along with the old saying that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. It also supports the idea that happiness and safety of a society of a whole are more important than a single individual or a couple group. It kind of goes with majority rules. And how does this apply to this particular situation? So, in this case study, I kind of felt like it was the one supervisor versus everyone else because he was really the main one that did not agree with these actions. The boss said, his supervisor, it has been done before. Legal counsel said that it was okay. The former supervisor said that it was okay. So it was kind of like it was easier for everybody else for the employee to take this action. It was easier on the former supervisor because he didn't have to face any consequences or get reprimanded for not doing his job. It was easier on the employee's supervisor because they did not have to do anything else. And it was also easier on the employee below the supervisor in the case study. That way they could go ahead and get their performance review. And thank you for everyone who listened to my whole presentation. This is just my reference page. I got my information from the book, and then I got my pictures from a free picture sharing website, which is listed right below. Thank you.